Welcome back to Living Out Loud. I nearly said laughing. Okay, this isn't really a laughing subject. However,
as you know, we left off last week with Debbie in the hospital and with psychiatric evaluation and care and medical care. But it was a very, very difficult time for her. She felt helpless. She felt, I don't know if you could say,
I had lost all control.
You just lost control
of everything,
any independence you might have had. And it was extremely hard because we wanting to love and care for her, but at the same time, a lot of things were out of our control. And but then she was moved to the med-surg ward, medical surgery ward, and the people there were just amazing. She still had a minder, someone that would sit in the room with her 24/7, and that turned out to be a blessing.
Yes,
because these people got to know Debbie, and Debbie got to know them and trust them. So, tell us a little bit about your time in that hospital.
It was just, again, humiliating. Bathroom door has to be open while you shower. Can't use can't use the toilet, etc., without somebody watching. But anyway, I started sharing my stories. The first couple of nurses would ask me questions, where's your accent from, etc., and loved the fact that we were from South Africa. But I was also, like, the nurse for the Saturday morning came in, and it was a male nurse, and he saw how I was struggling. And he sent the sitter out. He said, go get a break. And then he sat down next to me on the bed. And he just said, can I pray for you? And I was like, I would love that. And so he did. He prayed for me. I was crying. He was crying. And then the other nurse came back, so he kind of wiped his eyes and off he went. When he brought my meds a little later, he said, I just want you to know that that prayer was just, the prayer was also for him. It wasn't just for me. His wife had been going through some medical issues. But that's how the nursing staff was. And initially, I'd really seen it as a restriction in my movement. I still wasn't allowed to wear all my clothes, my own clothes. I was still in the paper scrubs. Somebody always with me. But it gave us new hope because it was also a different hospital. And so the dietitian came in to look at my tube feeds, and she recommended a whole bunch of things that we had never heard of. And then the GI team and interventional radiology were like, oh, we can probably, change your G tube into a J tube so there's less side effects. And so that fluttering of hope. And all that to say, after all the tests came back, they said, no, there's been too much. I've had too many surgeries, and the only person who would know, basically, what was going on inside would be the surgeon. They said he was the best, the one that we had. They did say that he is the best in Kansas City, and we knew that. And he's the only one that does all the esophageal dilations and things. So that was disappointing. But my Bible was important, and journaling. And so the psychiatrist, when she came for the first time on the Monday, I was like, please, can I have a Bible and my notebook? And my phone. And she said she would write it in her orders. So they allowed me to have my phone, my Bible, and my journal. And just the Lord would, I mean, the nurses would ask me questions, and I would share a story about something that happened on the mission field or something that we'd gone through as a family and adopting, the kids. And the more I was telling the stories, the more I was being reminded of God's faithfulness and how He had brought us through from, just His faithfulness, right? He's never left us. And I needed to do that. I needed to hear them, and the Lord knew that. And that's why He orchestrated it to work that way. In fact, so Ethel came in on the Friday morning the following week, and because we thought maybe I would be going home, and the nurse that had come in, she was telling me something, and I'd had her before, and so I looked at Ethel and said, "Oh, I can't go home today. She hasn't been able to share. I need to talk to her about that." And anyway, so I actually didn't get to go home that day. But it was good. And then just funny about I heard arguing outside my room. And there's two nurses arguing, and the one comes in, and I go, "Oh, if they don't want to sit with me, they're bored or there's something wrong." And well, turns out the nurse comes in and says, "Oh no, you don't understand. Everybody wants to take care of you. Everybody wants room 5056. And I go, "Really?" And she goes, "Yes." She says, "We're all fighting over you, and we come in as early as we can so we can speak to our manager and ask to be your sitter for the day or the evening." So once again, the Lord was just giving, it wasn't just a kiss, it was a smooch from heaven. And yeah, it was hard. We couldn't find a group there were plenty of groups for people suffering from depression. There were no groups of people suffering from depression because of chronic illness and chronic pain. And so, everyone we looked at just wouldn't have worked. So I decided that, when things look better, we will go ahead and start one at the church. So we're looking forward to doing that and filling a need with that.
But, the bottom line, it was a long stay at that hospital.
12 days.
12 days. But she got great medical care. But more than that, I think the overwhelming sense that we got was not only that the Lord restored hope, but it's the power of your testimony. And Debbie sharing over and over again, she was sharing her testimony. And just the amazing power in the testimony that God gives us, to see Debbie come alive and to see those around her be encouraged. But when you share your testimony, it's not just for the person who hears it, it's actually you sharing it that affects you, it helps you, it grows you, it builds your faith. And the more we share our stories, the more it builds our faith, because it reminds us of all that God has done for us. And it's just incredible to see that actually in a microcosm of a few days of seeing how Debbie's sharing. And it was just through conversation. It wasn't that she had a stage that she was sharing on. It was just conversation.
And they would walk in and say, "Oh, Angie said this, can you tell me that story?" And so we did. And I've never had nurses who come back after their days off and walk into the room and say, "Oh, the message at church yesterday, it made me think of you and how you needed to hear it. Here's the link." And I'm thinking, they're thinking about me, even when they're not on duty. Again, another kiss on the cheek. And let me finish with a little caveat. caveat. And again, it kind of lightens it up. But anyway, well, even before that, I was talking about the nurses and how when I left, I've never had nurses give me hugs before. And the two that walked us down to the car both said, could we have a hug? And so, again, just I felt loved. But anyway, we get home and I walk into the kitchen and Joshie had the basket. Christy was at work. She had this little gift basket with a teddy bear saying, I love you, and my favorite chocolates. And she had obviously given Joshie these instructions. And I walked in. There were streamers and everything. And
they decorated the house to welcome you.
Yes. And so, and I mean, by then, I'd been in the hospital for 19 days in January. But it's that. So I walk in, and Joshie's been given these instructions. So as I walk in the door, there he is standing with the gift basket with my favorite candies and everything. And he's got a poster that says, welcome home, Mom. You're doing great. And it was just amazing. But anyway, so I walk into the kitchen, and I had a parakeet, I did. So I have a parakeet. I had a parakeet. Running for the fjords. Okay, so I lean forward because every time I run water, the bird sits just on the other side in this little alcove between the family room and the kitchen. And I don't see Mojo. His name was Mojo, and I don't see him on any of his perches. So I lean forward, and poor little Mojo is laying at the bottom of his cage. And so I go, Mojo? And Joshua and Ethel look at each other, and they're like, oh dear, is this going to undo her? What's it going to do? And immediately I started thinking Monty Python and our back and forth bantering that we usually have. And so both of them looked at me and said, what are we going to do? I said, oh, it's okay. I'll just tell everybody I lost my mojo while I was in hospital.
Yeah. But she gained her mojo and her sense of humor too. And we're just grateful that the Lord spared Debbie. And thank you for watching. And look forward to speaking to you. And probably next time it'll be a story, maybe a little more lighthearted. Mm-hmm. But we just praise the Lord and thank God for what He did.
Mm-hmm. And just so I feel too, the way that the Lord did that and saved my life through Ethel holding me just added a whole new dimension to our love story, and it opened a lot of conversations between us that were hard, and with others. Maybe some of you were really hard, and yet the Lord is faithful. There is grace, but I do believe that we need to speak up the truth. It's raw, it's real, and it's authentic. So thank you for watching.